The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to K4Wins. K4Wins.com is the website where you get all of our plays, and it is NFC, AFC Championship weekend. I am Tony Kurre. Of course, I've been on ESPN Sports Radio for 40 years. Right below me there, Kip Keefer. He is the executive director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino. Fantastic work. To the left of him is Kip Keefer, his son, who, of course, has been knocking it out of the ballpark with futures and everything else. He's a ground zero in Las Vegas, chief editor of the Las Vegas Sun, and right above him is Kai Gregory. Does some fantastic work, and of course works both sides. He's been doing handicapping his entire life between the 4Ks. We come up with a lot of winners here. Before we get into some NFL action, your thoughts, of course, on the national championship game in college football. I had a very interesting phone call with a very well-known athletic director here from the Southeastern Conference yesterday, and definitely some things are going to have to change. I thought it was cool that we had the 5, 6, 7, 8, the 4 teams in the middle, but we can't have all 4 bye teams losing in the first round. Obviously, just because you won a conference championship doesn't mean you should be getting one of those byes. Some things need to change, and I think they will. But your overall thoughts, first of all, how are our plays? I know we are on the winner chicken dinner side, Kai, and then tell me what you thought of the college football season in a realm.
Yeah, I mean, four plays we gave out, including on the starting lineup with you and Kip. We gave out Ohio State in the first half. We gave out Ohio State over their team total in the first half, easily hit. We gave out Ohio State for the game. We gave out Ohio State team total over. All 4 of those hit. We had some disagreements in the NFL to talk about, but you and Kip hit where I just totally flamed out on that Buffalo game as being on the other side, but. Last week, 31-11. Overall, year to date, we're actually doing better than last year, 88, 39, and 3 year to date. Don't know how long we can keep that up, but with Case's incredible NFL playoffs also and his NHL, as well as, Kip coming in, Tony with his, crappy little thoughts. What do we call them?
My crappy little 4-1. My crappy little 4-1 thoughts.
Crafty or crappy?
Yeah, crafty.
Hey, I'll take 4-1 crap every night, my friend.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
And then Kip going 5-0 the other night.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing too, and of course there's a lot of handicappers out there. This is something relatively new for us. We've been handicapping for 40 years, like 150 years between the 4 of us, so it's nothing new to us. We've been doing it's the first time we've actually gone together and put a show together for it. You want to go back and look at our documentation? Go ahead. All of our stuff is up on our website. All the old stuff's up. Our free plays, everything is up at K4Wins.com. All right,
Tony. Before we go forward, we got to show the shirt.
Yeah,
for the Alabama Torch Run Golf Tournament.
Yeah,
one of my buddies
nice.
puts this on here. They're going for their 17th year in a row. Randy Meeks, the law enforcement here, puts this golf tournament on every year. This year it's January. January.
Yeah, I was going to say,
31st.
I'm out.
I've been a sponsor now going on 17 years. They host it here at Oxmoor Valley. All proceeds go to the Special Olympics. The law enforcement here does it.
Wow.
The police benefiting Special Olympics. And turn out for a great cause. Like I said, July 31st, they have a shotgun start at 10:30. And I was talking to Randy today wearing the shirt from 2023 and just wanted to throw that out there, something that they do here for a great cause.
A wonderful organization. My
Love
son has been in Special Olympics for the last 10 years, and he just got his paperwork a couple of days ago and thoroughly enjoys it. And it's just runs so well, and it's so chaotic. It's crazy, man. It is so fun watching all these kids run in different directions. It is a blast. So great work there, and thanks for bringing that up. And we always invite you to bring up great news events like that anytime you get a chance to do that. Let me start the show by asking Case Keefer a question here. And I kind of wanted you to do the State of the Union address in college and professional football. The end of the college football season is now over. You kind of let your hair down now. I kind of wanted to know favorites as opposed to underdogs, overs according to unders. Was there anything that specifically stuck out to you this year during the college football season? Did a 2-minute warning mean anything? Anything in particular that tipped you off this year?
2-minute timeout, not warning.
2-minute timeout, warning, whatever the hell. Yeah, I know. I'm sure not why we still have that thing. I'm not sure what it is. It's just another timeout. But I'm not sure why they just give both teams another timeout. But anything in particular?
Nothing super jumping out to me. I mean, certainly favorite. I mean, in both college football and NFL to finish the year. I mean, it was just chalky as hell. I mean, every favorite's winning every game. I think we might have had one upset in the end in the college football playoff, and that was only because Penn State closed like a 1-point favorite against Notre Dame. I believe that was the only upset in the whole playoff. So yeah, favorites pretty much rolled. I mean, I'm boring. I always say this, but I kind of feel like once again people just kind of overreact to everything they just saw. I know a lot of what we're saying is true, and I don't doubt it. I mean, I think they probably should change the seeding. That obviously failed spectacularly. Some other things in the playoff didn't go well, but I also don't really think what they set up was a terrible idea. I think we kind of got a weird year. I know there is going to be more power with Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC and Oregon and Washington moving to the Big Ten, but I think this is going to kind of end up being an outlier just how far behind like the ACC and Big 12 were this year. I mean, they just had no teams really on that level. So, I think you look back through the history since we've been having a national championship game or a playoff. I think the majority of years this bye structure actually would have worked pretty well. This just was the absolutely terrible year for it to happen. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to have changes, but I hear all these sweeping generalizations of oh, well, no one in the Big 12 or ACC is ever going to compete. The Big 10 is going to be the best conference forever now because they have the most money, things like that. We're constantly, and I know you guys are all SEC guys. You're not totally off the hook. I mean, I'm an SEC guy too, but when the SEC has a good postseason, it's, the SEC is so much better than everyone. I mean, it's cyclical. This thing goes up and down all the time. I think just acting like now because of what we saw in the playoff that the favorites are always going to win, that Ohio State's always going to have the most money. I don't necessarily think it's going to be that way forever. It'll be another fun season next year, but yeah, I don't know if I got off base with your question, but no. A lot of favorites, and yeah, to me, I don't know. Every year is its own unique animal. I feel like assigning that the way this year went is going to be the way it goes for the next 10 years, I think is a little foolish.
No, I think a lot of people thought that because there's going to be so much money involved, Kip, and it was going to be SEC, the rich are going to get richer. And you know what happened? SEC fans have been paying out the nose for 15 or 20 years. Our alum have been paying out the nose. We've been giving money under the table to our players for years. And all of a sudden it's legal to do so. And we don't, we got these $20 million teams like Ohio State. I'm not saying the SEC can't compete, but we've always thought we've had better players and we never had to pay our players to win championships. And you're starting to see that. I also say too, like the Catholics, Notre Dame, a team that perhaps never needs to show anyone any of their financial records because they're a private institution. The Vatican, all they can do is sign off a couple pieces of land in Northern Ireland, and they're going to have a $100 million team playing on the field next year.
Yeah, but people are upset down here because $50,000 in a charger at the University of Alabama doesn't get it done anymore. No. You got to give more money than that. Saban's gone, and that's done. But you talk about this, and you can look at the same thing in basketball. How strong the SEC is, but Duke is going to run through what's probably the worst ACC league in the history of the ACC and end up being a number one seed, probably number one overall, unless they just get a horrible, upset, which can always happen in basketball. And they're probably going to end up a number one seed overall, where you have teams like Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida out of the SEC that, in my opinion, are stronger than them, but because of the weakness of the ACC, they're probably going to have 2 losses on the year. That'd be it, maybe 3, and get a number one seed.
We all have strong opinions on the 2 ball games this weekend, AFC, NFC Championship weekend. We'll get into our plays in just a minute here. I do want to start with a question, then I'll start with you, Kip. If you could start with your favorite quarterback to start this weekend, would you take Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts?
I thought you were going to put the other 2 in there too and make it a real difficult question. No. Right now, would I rather have Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels? God, that's a tough question because I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to last. I keep having visions of Robert Griffin III in my head. He was broken in half by the first third of his second season. I don't know if Jaden Daniels can continue this tirade and be unscathed. I that's my big concern right now. Today, for this week's games, Jaden Daniels all the way, because I think Jalen is very proficient in what he does, but he's surrounded with a lot more weapons. The Barkley addition to the Eagles has made a huge difference. But I just don't know what kind of shelf life Jaden Daniels has. Maybe that's old school thinking. Maybe the game is transforming, but a quarterback that just takes off and takes unbelievable punishment has never been a commodity that's had very much longevity in the NFL history. So today, right now, I'll take Jaden Daniels long term. So I think I'll still be betting on Hurts.
Case, what
So
side
you
would you
take his
take?
over or under rushing yards then this weekend?
Yeah.
What do they set that at?
Rushing yards.
What are those over under rushing yards, Case?
I could get it for you in a second. I actually agree pretty much really right on with what Kip said. I think and I feel like now all of a sudden I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy compared to most people. The guys that I feel like has just taken so much criticism. I think he's underrated at this point, but if it's 4 right now for this weekend, I think you'd be foolish not to say Jaden Daniels, especially now with the knee injury. Long term, and I feel like a hater because I didn't like Jaden Daniels as much going into the draft, which obviously was a terrible idea because he's been amazing. I still am worried just about, and he's so slight a frame. He's such a little guy.
Yeah.
I still worry about him holding up. So I totally agree with Kip on that point. Jaden Daniels over under rushing yards. We're mostly 54.5 right now.
Okay. And Kip brought up a great point on our television show in the starting lineup yesterday. He's like, what the hell was Brian Kelly doing with his quarterback at LSU? When you had this quarterback, I mean, this kid is unbelievable. He was not being utilized.
This guy is a rookie, takes a team that won 4 games last year to the NFC Championship. Brian Kelly lost 4 games with this guy at quarterback. That's unbelievable.
Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors both had historic rookie seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Well. They look like 2 of the best.
Another great point.
And you see this a lot in the National Football League when a quarterback comes into his first season. Everything's still moving at light speed. It's a lot faster in the National Football League than it is in college, and they take off a lot earlier. And because they take off a lot earlier, they'll have 800-900 yards. We saw it with Johnny Manziel. We saw it with Cam Newton in their first year. You see all these quarterbacks come in their first year, and they're basically running for their lives. They don't have time to check down and look at their second or third option. By then, their wheels are already gone, and they're running on third longs, and they look miraculous because of it. But then by that second season, look at all these running quarterbacks in their second, third seasons where they kind of tone back a little bit. It's a learning process. Things to slow it down a little bit. They start being more pocket guys. And then you saw it with Jalen Hurts in his first year in the National Football League. All these guys are running for their lives, and they look fantastic. But like you said, it's hard to keep up and run like that. And I know that Tom Brady had said something the other day. It's the new quarterback, the new age of the quarterback, the running quarterback. It's not susceptible to a long-term deal. Quarterbacks can't run like that for 6 or 7 yards. Eventually, they're going to have to pocket it up. Even the Russell Wilsons of the National Football League.
Well, real quick to wrap that up. I think Jaden Daniels, to me, the thing I'm most impressed with, his precision as far as throwing the football. He's converting so many third down plays with perfect passes, and I think McLaurin is a big reason for that. I think this guy's been one of the most underrated players in the NFL for years. This guy is a great talent, and he's finally in his position. If Jaden Daniels can make the same transition, because, I still can't get out of the habit of watching a Ravens game and not expecting Lamar Jackson to take off. Well, that's not his game anymore. Yep. And I think Hurts has evolved out of that. If Jaden Daniels can continue to progress as a passer, then maybe he is going to be a long-term superstar, because where he is now compared to a couple of years ago when he first appeared at LSU, where I had him rated as a subpar passer, he has taken giant steps, in my opinion, in that direction this year.
Kyle, let's start right there. Commanders, Eagles, the line is 6 and 47.5. The Commanders, by the way, plus 300 to make the playoffs to start the season. Their over-under win total was 6.5, plus 6,000 to make it. Of course, in the NFC Championship game, plus 15,000 to win a Super Bowl. And here they are, one game away. Who do you like in that game? Yeah. And by the way, the last team plus 15,000 to get in, the 1999 Rams. And remember what happened. They went from worst to first, 4-12 to 12-4. What's your thoughts on the game, Kai?
Looking at some of these team totals and looking at the totals for both games, both games are still sitting on 47.5, which that kind of amazes me. But looking at this game, if you like Washington at all, then you've got to go Saquon Barkley prop under 130 yards total.
Yep.
Or it's not. I think it's sitting on 124.5. So interesting stat on Barkley. He has 130 yards on 3 of his carries against Washington. 3 touchdowns. The other 26 carries he's averaging under 2 yards. Just kind of over there. You got to look.
It's all breaking the big one.
How hurt is his left knee? I think Brown, it might be the X factor wide receiver for Washington. I really like Washington over their team total 9.5 in the first half, over 20.5 for the game. When's the last time Jaden Daniels didn't put up that many points? Now, granted, they lost 26-18. One game, and then when they beat Philly, 36-33. They had 3 turnovers and still won. A lot to overcome there, but Philly Washington +6. No, I bought it up to 7 when this came out. It was 6.5. I bought it to 7. I think Washington probably will keep it within that number. At least I hope so, since I played it. Washington, the Tony Curry irrelevant fact, is 6-2 versus spread this year on the road. So I really like the over 9.5 for them. I'm leaning towards the +3.5 for them in the first half, but I haven't gotten there yet. You got Daniels passing yards at, I think, 225.5, 21.5 attempt. But I really like his over 1.5 touchdown passes. I don't think he's necessarily going to run it in. I like the passes. I can't do anything but all Washington in this game. That's over their total, over their team total in the first half, and I like them +7 for the game.
Case, this team has been getting it over all year long. By the way, something that you're licking your chops after, if you're Cinco and Barley and an Eagles fan, the Commanders were 5th worst rushing defense in the National Football League this year. They'll give up a ton of yardage, including the big one against Saquon Barkley. And again, you're talking about a football team that's just been playing out of its mind all season long. Who do you like in the Commanders and the Eagles? Again, the Eagles giving up just under that 6 points. Seems like every time I look up, the Eagles are favored by 6 against somebody.
Yeah, well, if we had any close listeners last week, this is the show I remember saying it on. I said I really liked the matchup for Washington. I didn't necessarily think they were going to win outright. I thought it'd be a close game, but I liked the way they matched up with Detroit's defense. And I said the dream is that they win outright, so I can bet against them this week. And I am sticking towards this. I'm opposite. I love the Eagles in this game. The one thing that gives me a little bit of pause is the knee injury. I mean, if Hurts really is that shaky on the knee, it concerns me. But at the same time, I mean, he hasn't really been the key to this offense down the stretch here lately. I don't love Washington's rush defense. I feel like Barkley's going to get his, and I feel like Hurts will be able to do enough to get them enough points. But really, it's the other side of the ball where I just think this Eagles defense has come into its own. I think it held Washington way below. If you look back at the 2 games this year, I mean, just way below what they've done offensively against just about anyone else. I mean, I know they had the crazy comeback in the final 12 minutes of the second game, but the first game, like in the second half, Washington couldn't even get a first down. I like the matchup for the Eagles. I bet I tried to get -one place open 4.5 on Saturday night or Sunday night, whatever it was. I tried to get that, but it changed even before I could click quick enough. I got a pretty big bet at -5. I would probably pump the brakes at 7. But it's 6 still. I would be on Philadelphia. I would be pretty surprised if the Eagles didn't get it done here. Great season for Washington, not taking anything away from them. The future should be bright. I've been so blown away by Jaden Daniels as long as he can stay healthy. But to me, this is kind of where the party stops. I like Philadelphia. I just don't think Detroit's – I know they looked amazing last week, but Detroit, I mean – it's funny, former Raider who I know well, Amik Robertson, gets hurt on the opening possession, and that was like, injury number 23 to their defense that year. And they just didn't have anyone that could play defensive back. And I think with the way that Jaden Daniels and his precision passing matched up, there was just no way they were going to stop them. And I think the world of the Eagles secondary. I don't think they're going to give them those looks. I think this might be a tougher day than people expect for the Washington offense.
Can't be throw out those words.
Cosme, the left tackle for Washington, being out. That's the guy that's supposed to block Jalen Carter, and that could be a huge deciding factor.
You talk about this worthless Tony Curry stats. By the way, the Kansas City Chiefs, the only team left out of the 4 with a losing ATS. Everyone else, 11-7 or 12-8 or 12-6, I guess. And their ATS scores. Just win, baby. Kip, who are you liking? You liking the Birds? Or are you going Commando this weekend?
Yeah, I picked Philadelphia to win the game. The line fluctuating. I'm not sure exactly what side I'd be on there. I think Philadelphia is going to win. You just mentioned Jalen Carter, who a guy who fell. I think Case probably knows, but I think he fell all the way to the 8th or 9th pick because ninth pick overall. How many teams that passed on Jalen Carter now are saying, boy, were we stupid. Jalen Carter's become just such a dominant force. And as somebody who watches Georgia closely, I knew what kind of player he was. And it's very enjoyable to see him kind of mature into that player that everybody thought. And for the second time in his career, he did it against Jaden Daniels in the AFC Championship game a couple weeks ago. He just lifted the quarterback off the ground and held them up in the air. He did it to Stafford this week too, until the whistle blew. This guy is that dominant. He's even a gentle enough giant not even to throw the quarterback to the ground. He just holds him till the play's over. So he's one of my favorite players in the league. And the Eagles defense, with a lot of the Georgia guys from that generational defense that had 5 first-round draft picks in the very first round of the NFL draft from their defense, unprecedented. A lot of those guys populate the Philadelphia defense, so a lot of good pedigree there, a lot of winning in their DNA. I think the Redskins, I can't get out. I'm sorry, guys. I do it every week. I think the Commanders have had a miraculous season, but I'm really thinking that this game in Philly is going to be, probably linger on that 7 to 10 point range all game, and maybe the Redskins get a backdoor at the very end to make it happen. But I think Philadelphia wins the game. If it gets under 7, I think you can really consider strongly taking the Eagles. 7 or more, 7 or 7.5. I think you have to go the other way and take the Commanders to cover. But I really think at the end of the day, the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl.
I feel like we've been watching this Washington Commanders team catching 7 or 8 or 9 points like since week 13, just waiting for this team to blow up, and they just haven't done it yet.
To be clear, it's only 6 now. I just threw out 7. I really think it's going to close there. I think we've seen money on Philadelphia like every week. I do think it gets to 7. So I'm saying right now, fire away. I would still lay the 6. But at 7 where I project it to close, I could be wrong. I wouldn't. And one thing on the Jalen Carter is an interesting point. I think the Raiders weren't the only team, but he was top of the Raiders board, but they had to pass on him at 6. The optics with coming off the Henry Ruggs situation after his
God,
the Raiders. I think that former Raiders staff, if you gave him truth serum right now, would say it was painful to have to pass on him. I think they had 6 in that draft, but I think they probably weren't the only team, but they were number 1 that just could not do what was going on.
Obviously, 2 teams that know each other very, very well. They split during the season. On the other game,
and
Buffalo
they played recently. Didn't they play 2 times in the last 5 games of the season? I mean, they've been playing constantly lately.
That's why you have to think maybe it's going to be a close ball game just because they know each other so well. Another 2 teams that played earlier in the season, week 11. It was when, of course, the Buffalo Bills got the better of the Kansas City Chiefs, 30-21. Interesting numbers. Mahomes and Josh Allen against each other. Mahomes 8 touchdowns, 0 picks. Josh Allen against Kansas City, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. It's probably why that line's only 1.5, and that over/under, I'm seeing about 48.5. I know, Kai, you mentioned 47.5. Kip, let's go back to you. This should be a lot of fun game to watch. I saw a very interesting stat, and I've already jumped on the over 24.5 for Kansas City, but the Chiefs have not scored under 25 points in consecutive ball games in their playoff history with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. They put up a 23 spot this past week against the Texans. They will definitely go over the 24.5 this weekend, so I'm already on that number. What's your thoughts?
I've thought all year this has got to be Buffalo's year. I mean, year after year after year, they have the heartbreak, and it usually dies in Kansas City. But in thinking about some of the recent games that certainly could have gone Buffalo's way, the one a couple of years ago, particularly the 13-second miracle where somehow, with no timeouts, they moved the ball from their own 25 into field goal range in 13 seconds on a Tyreek Hill play. Buffalo's just been to the well too many times. It reminds me of so many other parallels in other sports where a team just can't get over the hump, and then finally, miraculously, it happens. I think it's this year, maybe do or die. Not to say that Buffalo's going anywhere in the future, but I know I don't base enough of my opinions on numbers and data and history and all those things. I do it more on just kind of the common sense of watching the trends unfold and different teams' dynamics. And I just have had that feeling all year. This is Buffalo's year to finally break through. I think they find a way to win in Kansas City. I don't know how many points they're getting right at the moment. I didn't have it busy all morning. I didn't get a chance to get the update. So you guys, I'm sure, will talk about that. But I'm going Buffalo all the way here. I think they get out of Kansas City. The Chiefs have been Houdini all year. They've played so many subpar games, and I know they're going to play their best game here. but I just think Buffalo is better prepared to finally break through and win this thing.
Case, this is a football team that's 10-0 at home, and they're 4-5 on the road, 3-6 against the spread. Buffalo is a totally different animal on the road than they are at home, and so are the Kansas City Chiefs. And here's the Chiefs trying to do something that no one's ever done before, and that is win 3 Super Bowls in a row. This is going to be a great ball game.
Yeah, and I wrote about this. You want to read more into it at LasVegasSun.com. But yeah, the Chiefs just get every break continually. I know there's a lot of talk about the calls last week, but even beyond that, I think there was a stat floating around. They're the first team in NFL playoff history to get outgained by 100 yards, not have a turnover, and still win. I mean, they looked awful last week, 4.2 yards per play. My only holdup is the Bills didn't look much better. I mean, the Bills won basically just because of those 3 turnovers. The Ravens were going up and down the field. This is what brings me back to why I think the Chiefs got every break. I mean, they're an underdog to Baltimore here. The Ravens, for I think the second year in a row, were clearly the best team in the NFL and just made one too many mistakes, had the ball bounced against them. It's hard for me coming off last week. We put so much stock in how teams are playing in the playoffs. Like, I don't know how you can feel great about either of these teams. Neither of them really looked all that good. I'm with Kip in that Eileen Buffalo. They've really outplayed Kansas City. If you take the 8 games they've played, kind of in the modern era of Allen versus Mahomes. I know it seems like the Chiefs have gotten the better of them because they've won all the playoff ones, but the Bills, I think, have a positive point differential slightly in those games. I feel like they've been the better team. I just don't think this is the best Bills team. I mean, defensively, I think they have some flaws, and obviously their weapons I downplayed all year when people were saying that they weren't good enough to get to the Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl. And I kind of think the other side has kind of turned out to be right. I really feel like they're missing, just one more game breaker. So there's a route that I could see the Chiefs winning here, but the Chiefs have just been so continually underwhelming. I mean, we heard for 2 weeks that they were going to be so much better in the playoffs because that's what they've done. They've had all this time to rest. And then I just thought the Texans' performance was pretty bad. I mean, they easily could have lost that game. So I slightly lean the Bills, but just, I don't, my overarching thing is just what a missed opportunity for the Ravens. Because just back-to-back years, I feel like they've
unbelievable
had the best team and they've just fumbled it away. So I'd ever so slightly go with the Bills, but I know everyone's excited because it's Buffalo, Kansas City, the big rivalry, but I just don't know how you can feel super confident about either of these teams after what we saw last weekend.
Kai, Bills have given up 40-plus points 4 times this year, every one of those games on the road. They are a different animal on the road, and now they got to go into Kansas City home with a 12th man. Can Josh Allen get it done, or is it going to be Kansas City all over again?
Well, I got to point out, all 3 of y'all were on Buffalo last week. I was on Baltimore. So, we talked about that.
I was on Baltimore. I was wrong too. Yeah.
Okay, well, never mind.
Not confidently.
I think it is time for me and Case to have the Vegas steak dinner bet. If he gives me 7 with Washington, I don't get me wrong. I do think Philly's going to win that game. I just like Washington to hit all of their team totals. That's really how I've made the most money for me this year, halftime and team totals and for the game. Bills lost 7 straight road games, but keep this in mind this year. 7 straight road playoff games, I'm sorry. They've forced 35 takeaways this year, the Bills have. They've forced the most turnovers or takeaways in the NFL, and they've committed the fewest. But there's 0 chance I'm betting against Mahomes. I'm just not betting against Kansas City. There's no rhyme or reason for it. Everything screams Buffalo in this game, but Kansas City's still a 1.5-point favorite. Vegas is smarter than me. They were built, Vegas was built for a reason, and it's not built at my house in Hoover, Alabama. So I'm taking Kansas City. I don't have a rhyme or reason. Just Vegas is smarter than me, and they don't lose a lot.
All right, there you go. You look at games like this, and obviously you've got the side and you got the total, and it's gotten so tight. It gets so you have to start looking for prop bets. In case I want you to drop a couple of these, I saw a couple of these bets that I'd either heard and I'd done some research on. I thought they're pretty good. 19 of the last 20 games, Kansas City has had a wide receiver actually run the ball several times. Xavier Worthy over 2.5 rushing yards. I'm hearing that a lot from several different people. The Bills have also run the ball 36 times against the Ravens, 44 times this past game before that. And so Josh Allen, anytime touchdown, and also James Cook to go over 54 yards rushing. Any of those numbers sound good to you?
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little behind this week just with the Raiders coaching and general manager search has taken a whole lot of my time. But today is the day. But not just throwing shameless plugs out there to throw them, but it fits. I write a column every Saturday on props, more exotic. So today, as soon as we get off, I'm diving into the props, super heavy on all these games. So I haven't bet any props yet. I will say one thing you said that stood out. I don't necessarily know I would go with the rushing yards on Xavier Worthy, but I can see it. And one thing about him that I think that the market hasn't picked up on that I've been betting a lot is that they run a lot for him in their red zone packages down near the goal line. Last week he got stopped at the 1. Might have been a handoff. I can't remember. I had him to score the first touchdown, so that was a pretty devastating. But if you're looking for pro Xavier Worthy, I wouldn't mind some touchdown looks. I don't know. I feel like he hasn't scored in a couple games now, and despite him being more known as a downfield threat and being a little bit smaller guy, they run a lot near the goal line for him. But again, I'm really going to dive into all those props here shortly. So if you want to read my story, you can find some things I go for there. But yeah, certainly I think Worthy's gotten a lot better as the season has gone on. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored. I lose betting Travis Kelce unders every week. I don't think he's the same guy that he once was. I was all over him under last game, and of course he blew up. But I got to think it's going to be super high again with everyone betting him over. I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo shoots to take him away. So maybe just going off something I seem to bet every week and lose. Maybe some Travis Kelce unders for me.
By the way,
touchdown and first touchdown for Kelce would be another good bet, though.
Yeah. By the way, Worthy averaging 4.7 yards per carry this year, just over 100, and he had 20 rushes this year. So he will get the ball. It's just whether he's going to get that 2.5 yards, and you better believe as a wide receiver, he probably will. Yeah, it's funny because you used to never even see this prop bet up on rushing yards by a quarterback. And now those are funner to play than they are in the passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, the passing yards seem like they've been so inflated. It seems like I've seen 249.5 about a million times this year. I don't know why I keep seeing 249.5 of these things, but it's almost funner to play the rushing yards. And one of those games was in the national championship game. Riley Leonard, and I was all over it. I saw a prop bet attempts over 13.5. He had 9 attempts in that first drive. Of course, he went over there after a 9-minute drive, an 18-play drive, throwing his guts up. But of course, he ended up rushing 17 times. But I mean, talk just a little bit about that, because it's certainly a more exciting Mike Tirico when I would say, listen, we love the rushing quarterback. It makes calling games so much more exciting for us. It is the future. If the future is already here in the National Football League, but man, all it takes is a couple of good cracks. And you know what? If I have to see Patrick Mahomes, the big puss, if I see him one more time saying, I need a flag, I need a flag, I need a flag, he gets called more flags for because he ends up getting hit in the helmet or he gets pushed out of bounds. Just play the football game. But it's added an aspect to the football game. It's just made it a lot of fun to watch, Case.
Yeah, Riley Leonard saved my championship game, so big shout out to him. And I wrote it up, so it's in writing. You can't not just make it up, but I had him to score the first touchdown at 12-1, a big bet on him to score the touchdown at plus 150. Those are my two best prop bets and in my Talking Points newsletter, so that saved me. I actually went the opposite, and I think because of the reasoning you're saying, people love betting them so much, and there's so much action, especially on the playoffs. I waited till really late, probably Saturday, and I bet both Mahomes and Allen under rushing yards last week, and it was not a sweat at all. I mean, neither of them. I feel like the narrative has now gone a little bit too far with the running quarterbacks. And again, I haven't done this week, so I could end up flipping if I see something in the numbers in the defenses that it's more open here. But I think I had Mahomes was like under 29.5, which he hadn't come close to all year. And Allen, I think, was under 48.5. And I really thought that the Ravens' whole defensive plan would be to keep Allen in the pocket, keep him without moving. So, yeah, one sharp thing that I will never tell you is wrong. And this is how the sharpest groups approach props when they can get more money down, like at this type of time of the season. Wait until the absolute last minute and bet under on all these big name guys, because everyone is betting the over. The sports books build up exposure when there's like 95% of the money is on Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to go over their rushing totals. I'm not necessarily saying I'm doing it again this week, but that is something I did last week that was successful. Generally, if you want to bet these props, bet overs early and try to wait late and bet under on the big name guys, because almost always they're a few yards too high.
What's juice is too big for you? If you see something minus $1.65 on an over, something like that's always kind of told me something. But what's your thoughts on how much juice will you go?
I mean, we've been through this. I kind of think about it differently, I think, than most people. I mean, I'm just a numbers guy, so I have no problem laying. If there's a minus 400 and I make it 95% to cash, that's the best bet on the board. I don't care. I'll lay the juice if it works. There's no like cutoff. I would say for just like straight, since we're talking a lot of over under rushing props, for just straight that, usually there's a pretty big market. It's usually pretty set into place. Because of that, I would try, unless it's a real off market number, I wouldn't try to go higher than like minus 115. But in general, I mean, I don't mind taking a huge long shot if it works mathematically. I don't mind taking a huge favorite. It's just all about the value, and this is all probability at the end of the day. So it's how it fits into the probabilistic aspect of my mind, I guess.
K4Wins.com, the number 4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. We're on fire again to kick off 2025. Of course, it's a free site. Check it out. It's wonderful. You get all of our plays there. And of course, we've got college hoops. We've got NBA. We got hockey. We've even did women's sports. We're on all kinds of stuff. Go to K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Next time we do this show, gentlemen. And by the way, I want to thank Coastal Sports Network for having us on. Pete Shepard, a friend of mine, who's putting our show up. We're going to get a lot of look-sees on that as well. So we're ever expanding and getting bigger and better by the day. So appreciate you guys. And next time it'll be Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans, who just got 10 inches of snow. Talk about a weird time to be a New Orleans fan, man. I mean, with the terror attacks, they get 10 inches of snow. They got a Super Bowl coming up, Fat Tuesday right around the corner. That's a crazy town to be in. So, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Okay, guys.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.